Hey guys, welcome to the Canada Puck Podcast, your somewhat weekly recap of what's going on in the world of sports, specifically hockey, and more specifically, Canada, just like the name implies. Look how cute we are. I'm your co-host, Mick, and I'm joined every episode by my lovely and talented co-host,
Grant, on Twitter at Fourth Line Sports. Unexpected happenings delayed us or prevented us from recording last week, which means we've got a whole whackload of ground. I don't know why I say whack, I'm gonna swear. A whole shitload of ground to cover. And, you know, it's been an exciting few weeks in the NHL world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Several things have happened, right? So, yeah, we can go back to, I guess let's recap round one. That's kind of where we left off. Talk about, well, some of the round two series are almost over, right? I mean, if Carolina doesn't pick up their socks here, it might be done. I was like, oh, we dropped the ball in that whole series altogether, right? So, starting with round one, in the East, any happenings that were odd? Rangers swept the Capitals. Kind of expected that one.
I think you and I both had a sweep. If not, maybe we gave them a courtesy game. Nothing to talk about.
We both went.
Everybody knew what was happening.
Carolina wrapped their games up in 5 games. I think on our sheet we both had Carolina. I had 6. You had 7. So we figured it was probably going to be a no-brainer. I just don't like 5s. 5s and 4s. I've literally only ever put 5s and 4s on papers before. You know what's never happened ever in the history of hockey? 5 and 4 game series ever in the first round. It's always 6 and 7s. It's always 6 and 7. So the fact that it went off, I don't know what's going on. It's just that one, I guess. Should have zagged when everyone else was zagging.
I guess so. Yeah, that is weird.
Florida cleaned up in 5 games. I think we both had Tampa winning in 6 or 7, right? So we were definitely off on that one. Tampa just didn't have the juice at all. Florida looked a little bit more dominant. And then just to wrap up the East, Boston, Toronto went 7. We both had Toronto in 6. So, I don't know, it's close-ish.
I mean, close.
An overtime in Game 7 is really a coin toss. Like, I don't even know if we can, like, both those teams were kind of terrible throughout the whole series. They dragged it out to the very last second, and a team won?
Yeah, that last... Okay, so there's a whole bunch of storylines to talk about in this series. Mm-hmm. But let's take a Christopher Nolan approach and jump wherever. And we're going to start at the end. Yep. We're going to move to the beginning, and then we're going to sprinkle in between.
Okay.
But that Pasta's goal in overtime, it felt like it was the poetic ending the Leafs just suffer every time, where everybody seemingly gave up on it, and Pasta just skated in and scored. Like, it was unbelievable almost.
Marner not finishing a check, just giving up on a play. Riley not playing the puck properly. Samsonov just literally not doing anything, just dropping into butterfly and just sitting there and then watching the puck go beside him and then been like, oh, I guess I could have got that. Or like went out to the corner to play it or poke checked or been like aggressive, like just this aggressive instead of just like dropping. Just R2, butterfly.
But like everybody just seemingly like, you know those memes where wireless controller disconnected, sure, and then people just kind of glide. Sure. That was the whole team. Like, it was like the entire 5 people on the ice or 6 people just fucking gave up. They're like, shit.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we can go back from there. Great, awesome. Boston wins in a play. Yeah, some of the players, especially that had some tough scrutiny. You're telling me that Marner and Riley and Samsonov, those 3 guys should probably, of all the players on the Maple Leafs, they should probably have tried a little bit. Just a little bit of try. And again, if your controller gets disconnected, there's not much we can do about it. Maybe we give up on the wireless, guys. Maybe we do a hard plug. Get a little short cord, make them stand by the TV, and think about what you've done. Right? So before that, though, the tying goal from Boston, that was minutes or seconds, 30 seconds or something after the Leafs kind of broke that one open. And what is Sheldon Keefe, almighty, great, glorious Sheldon Keefe do? You throw your 4th line out. That hasn't playing all great. You get your first lead of the game. You don't want to keep the pressure on. You throw out the scrubs. They've got it. There's nothing bad that can happen. Boston basically comes down and scores. Why? How is that? What part of the coaching playbook says, like, remember, when you get a lead in a game 7, you should like take the foot off the gas because obviously you've won.
In the third period, I think there was 10 minutes left-ish, somewhere around that, and you put these guys on who've played 4 minutes all game, being like, "This is your time to shine, boys."
You've got it.
Not every moment is a Rudy moment, and I think that that's exactly what Sheldon Keefe was trying to do there.
Oh, it's just absolutely fucking just mind baffling, right? And then like going back, it's okay, cool. The fact they even got to a game 7 the following Saturday night, I think after we had last spoke, I think we both said Toronto was going to win, and we were like, this is probably a bad sign. They lost. They got their tits blown off. It looked like they were scrapping the whole franchise. Gutsy performance in games 5 and 6 from William Nylander to come back from whatever migraine issues he was having, some type of blurred vision, and be able to kind of come back, settle the score. Great, awesome, gutsy performance. Austin Matthews, mystery injury. Any of those 3 points? Any of those points you want to talk about?
100%. And this, I'm going to ask you to put your tinfoil hat
Yep.
on. Because the timing of these injuries was just too coincidental to me. And I started to wonder, is this a COVID thing? And if not a COVID, is it like a sickness thing where like Nylander came down with some sort of fucking nasty flu that just put him on his ass and caused these migraines? He came back, Matthews got it, and then Woll got it because Woll was scratched. The guy had stopped like 96% of shots, and then he's scratched for game 7 because for undisclosed reasons.
Yeah.
And just like with the timing of everything, it's not like everything happened at once. So it just, to me, it felt like there was something that was going on in that dressing room that was just like knocking people one by one down. But that's just me purely speculating. And I just,
yeah,
I think that there's more to it.
Absolutely, and they're not saying something. The best theory I've heard that I'm like, game 81, Matthews goal 69 in that game already against Detroit, skating in hard kind of second period or something like that, gets tripped up and goes hard into the boards and has a moment where like he kind of falls backwards, almost kind of like he's sitting into the board, smacks his head pretty hard, gets up, keeps playing, plays the next game, plays the next couple game. Was there some undiagnosed concussion symptoms from that Detroit fall that when they started to articulate in his gameplay and say like after game 2 there where he kind of lit Boston up? And is that just like the Toronto Maple Leafs being like, it was food poisoning? It definitely wasn't concussions. We definitely did not skirt any protocols with the concussion protocols. It was just food poisoning. And I'm like, I could actually see that. I could definitely see a team backpedaling and the medical staff being like, holy fuck, what have we done? So it might have been a lingering issue that was greater, or maybe had some bad negative light that they're just kind of like pushing to the side to be like, no, it's the playoffs. All is good. Look at this great team in Utah. That's what we wanted all along, right? Arizona, we don't even know what that is. Hockey's great.
So this is a part 2. Okay, so with Matthews in particular, how many times, like, we have literally seen players play through broken legs. It was granted, it was just a fibula, but there was a Boston player a few years ago who broke his fibula. I can't remember if he finished his shift or the game. Like, it just like food poisoning is just like this. A cover-up diagnosis. Everybody knows it's a cover-up diagnosis. You don't miss 2 games because you're shitting your pants. You just don't. Especially when your team needs you more than anything.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, God bless the marketing strategy from the NHL, because Austin Matthews, watching him being like, Austin Matthews said food poisoning the last 2 games. Here's to a commercial break. To Austin Matthews sitting there being like, you should eat Uber Eats like Austin Matthews. And I'm like, somewhere they missed a dot that was connected. So Uber Eats gives you the poopies.
Oh man,
the poopies like Papa. Yeah, I mean, again, it was a tight series down to the line. We've seen Keefe get relieved of his duties with the new CEO Pele or something like that. Kind of, I think they had a press conference last week. So more than likely, some shakeups are coming. I don't hate it. You know, I'm at this point, I'm like, it's not working. The core 4 doesn't work. Let's move on. Again, I do think the Leafs were just out-coached in a lot of the postseasons in the last couple of years. They were out-coached by Paul Maurice, by John Cooper. Yeah, those guys are great. They were out-coached this year by Jim Montgomery, who was also probably going to get fired if Boston lost, right? So it's not like they were some powerhouse, but just the constant in-game changes. The fact their power play went 1 for 27 in a 7-game series? What is that? Like, who controls that? Is that the player's fault, or is that a coach's fault if your power play just goes stagnant?
Yeah. take it from a guy who had a coaching change on his favorite team earlier this season. They actually work.
Hey, I bet you that's going to work. So, like, already I'm like, hey, next year it's going to be better. We don't have Keefe. I think there was some extra circumstances that kind of kept Keefe in the background, right? But all in all, Matthews missed 3 games. He's not healthy. Joseph Wall, who looks definitely better than Samsonov. Samsonov let in bonehead goal after bonehead goal after bonehead goal. And he was just good enough to kind of keep that job. So, like, without someone like that, just a little bit more competency and maybe have, like, 1-2 of your top 3 players healthy a whole series, you probably win that run, right? So, off-season changes coming for the Leafs. But I think I think it's that time. Like,
off-season changes it is.
Yep.
Two things are coming. Obviously, Keefe's already gone.
Yep.
Somebody's leaving that dressing room. Do you think that there's a coach who has a head start on landing the Leafs job, and who do you trade as a GM?
Right now, I don't know. I would. You can't trade Mitch Marner, unfortunately. And if you do, it's unfortunate. You sit down with Mitch Marner and you say, hey, Mitch, we're going to trade you. We're losing this trade, though, 10 times out of 10. We're not going to get the same return. We're definitely going to lose. Yeah, you're going to go. You're going to be great. You're going to go to Utah. You're going to have playoff performance. You're going to go get your 8 goals in 4 games. And then everyone's going to be like, why did the Toronto Maple Leafs trade you? And that might happen. But unfortunately, the way this team is constitutes is that $10 million is just better assessed at somewhere else, right? Now, if that is the case, it's one more year of Mitch Marner, Tavares, and you go from there, right? If an extension can't be made, you can always trade him in the off season, right, to get that extra year on his deal, something like that. So, as of right now, I'm probably not making knee-jerk reactions. Maybe a coach that has some playoff experience, a Craig Berube, a Todd McClellan. Do I love Todd McClellan? Is he just like a different version of Sheldon Keefe? Yes, probably. just something different, and I would love to see that go forward. So if the core 4 goes into the postseason next year, just with a new bench boss, I realize that the guys with the stat sheets are going to tell you that Sheldon Keefe, oh man, that guy was a good coach. His record or something like that over his tenure was like 292 wins, 95 losses or something like that. Exceptional, phenomenal. But he got outcoached and outplayed and outgained every single postseason. So I think we just need someone a little different, and I'm okay looking at the core 4 with an actual leadership. So far we've had, Sheldon Keefe and Mike Babcock? And Mike Babcock didn't even get through a preseason in Columbus. That's how much of a shitbag that guy is. So let's give him actual leadership, some competency, and just see what they can do for a year, and I'm fine with that. Next year, that's when the Tavares money comes away. That's when the Marner, and then you can rechange things. You've got Nylander for the next 8 years, right? You've got Matthews signed for the next 4 or 5. It's fine. Those guys are in place. They're your key pieces. We figured out next year. I'm okay with not big changes coming this year. I'm not going to be crying. I think Keefe was a big part of that, right? Try and get the power play going, trying to get some of those in-game changes going.
Fair. So, the coaches in the NHL is just an old boys club. It feels like it's just this kind of like 35-person churn. You just kind of get pulled in. The Leafs wouldn't be wrong for pursuing somebody outside of the norm. Like, why don't go for an AHL coach or even a college coach like the Flyers did, Hackstall or whatever his name is a few years ago, which ended up working out kind of in the long run. But as far as core 4, if you know you're going to lose the trade, I feels like John Tavares is the guy to move on from. Marner has so much to contribute still, and like, granted, he wasn't good in the playoffs, and consistency was a bit of a factor this year. But with the right coach, I think that guy is at least in the MVP conversation. So, yeah. And there's all this banter about Marner getting traded, and it just feels like it would be the wrong thing to do. Yeah. Move on from Tavares in the 11. Does he get 11 mil? Like, he gets a whole shitload of money, does he not?
He does, yeah.
He's got 1 year left. He's in late 30s, mid 30s. It's time to move on. Find somebody who you can find 2 or 3 players that you can get for $11 million who are going to fulfill a similar role and give you a little bit more flexibility to upgrade goaltending. Maybe you lock up Joel Edmundson for a little while because he was as ice. He was what they needed, and he played the shutdown role, and he was able to get the puck up. It was just a match made in heaven on the back end. I think the Leafs need to make a few changes. I don't think a wholesale change is needed, but they do need to upgrade a few key pieces. And I think goaltending, which has let them down time and time and time again, is one thing that they really need to focus on.
And just get like a little bit healthier. Bobby McMahon, he came in, played from his entry-level contract. He signed a bit of an extension this year. That guy was a top 6 player. He played consistently with Tavares and Nylander, and he looked like he was ready to big game play. He got hurt against Tampa Bay in the last game of the series and missed the series, right? So, I mean, you add an extra top 6 forward into this group. Maybe a guy like Bertuzzi doesn't come back, right? And put that money onto the back end with, like, the Brody money. Well, there's $10 million. We can upgrade our defense. Great. Awesome. Cool. Get Ilya Lyubushkin to anyone else. And I think give his team a chance, right? So, I'm not panicked at this point. Had we talked 2 weeks ago, we done, like, a reaction show after that Game 3 loss or Game 4 loss, probably would have been a little crippled. But by the time I was at Game 7, I was like, nah, it's gonna be an overtime. Boston's winning. throw the house on it. That's what's happening. Let's tear this thing down. So, okay, so we'll leave that. So that is the East done. We'll go through and I guess that was kind of our post-mortem on the Leafs season. That was kind of all the talking points, right?
Yeah, Boston. Anyways, yeah, we'll get to Boston again.
Okay, cool. So then jumping over to the West, starting from the top of our page here, we've got Dallas, who went down 2-0 to Vegas. Vegas Knights looked like they were coming in. They were going to take this series. They stormed back to win in the Game 7. Also kind of a thrilling series there. So, and they get to beat the big, bad Vegas Knights. What is Vegas going to do with the salary cap this year? They can't re-sign their players. I feel bad for them.
We should all feel bad for Vegas and their $100 million salary cap because Lord knows the newest franchise, one of the newest franchises in the league, deserves a little bit of an advantage, and it'd be unfair if Gary Bettman made them play within, $83.5 million like every other team had to.
Perfect. Now, if I was to tell you everything they gave up, all of the assets that they moved, all the guys that they brought in, for them just to lose in a Game 7 in round 1, doesn't that seem kind of like at the trade deadline you have been like, oh, that seems fitting. Okay, cool, awesome, great. It does seem, again, it's one of those things. That's why sports are played, and we don't just look at them on paper and we make decisions, right? So anything can happen. We saw the mighty fall, and we'll see. That might have been the last time the shenanigans work, right? I bet you if Mark Stone is hurt next year, I would be very, very surprised if he comes back for Game 1 next year in the postseason, right? Or if those shenanigans fly anymore. If they have in the past, this might be one of those cases where the NHL says, guys, look, you have such bad press coming against you. It's done enough. No more of this LTIR. Over, done. So that was kind of your window. So good job, Dallas, for being everyone's favorite hockey club for a week.
They, what's going to happen again, though, Mick. You know that they're going to come 2 weeks before the trade deadline. Mark Stone, I guarantee you, Mark Stone comes down with some fucking, Lyme disease. He's got Lyme disease.
Gingivitis. Oh, man.
Oh, man. Anyways, Vegas got what they deserved, and we're all better because of it.
Ooh, second postmortem, and actually this will work well, and then we can kind of just go right talking into the next. So we'll finish up with the first round matchup of Winnipeg versus Colorado. Winnipeg won the first game 7-6 or something like that. It was a barn burner, kind of blew the doors off. Colorado just couldn't be stopped and went on to win 5-1 in that series. Good job, Colorado. However, the Winnipeg Jets, get out of here. Postseason is done. Poor Winnipeg.
Okay, this is stuff that we talked about all year long. Mm-hmm. The Winnipeg Jets will go as far as Connor Hellebuyck carries them. And when Connor Hellebuyck, I don't want to say he pooped himself, but I guess he did poop himself. When Connor Hellebuyck pooped himself in the postseason, the Jets just couldn't hang with the Avalanche. And not even that, like, it wasn't even particularly close. Like, even when they're on the ropes at home in Game 5, mm-hmm. It felt like they were never really in it. Like, Colorado just plays this tight checking defensive game. Winnipeg would dump it, lose a battle. Colorado would have the puck, and then they'd go and score. Like, it just, like...
Yeah.
It was too methodical. And when Connor Hellebuyck was making those game-changing saves, it was just a formality to get through the first round for the Avs.
What a hockey series this is. Could you imagine seeing a team score 6 goals in every game? They scored 6-5, 6-5, and 6 over the course of 5 games to root the Winnipeg Jets. What does that feel like?
It's got to be a little disheartening.
Huh.
And Colorado, I hate Colorado. I hate that we're talking about Nathan McKinnon in the second round. They're going home. Anyways, we'll get to that too. I don't like that Winnipeg made this as easy as they did. Mm-hmm. But maybe it was a matter of getting out coached. But from what I've seen, and it wasn't all 5 games, it just looked like they were always a step behind. They didn't have the structure. They didn't have the execution. Goaltending was an issue. Like, they just were never in this series.
The thing that I hate most about, like, the Colorados of the world is this franchise was a fucking absolute failure. Since Joe Sakic has been running this organization, they were fucking terrible. I saw a clip the other day. After 9 years. So Nathan McKinnon was in the league for 9 years. He's on the podium. They lose in the first round, and he's in tears sitting there, and he's saying, I suck. It's been 9 years. I haven't won shit in this league. I'm terrible. I suck. Okay, cool, great. Wins the Stanley Cup the next year. They have a couple little wins here. Everyone's like blowing this guy's fucking dick. Oh my God, Nathan McKinnon, what a great guy. McDavid's been in the league for 9 years. He's got a series of first-round wins, some second-round wins. He's got the hardware. But we treat him like a fucking loser because, he hasn't won a Stanley Cup? Like, it's a team sport, guys. Like, we have to, I don't know. This is one of those things that kind of pissed me off where I'm like, I kind of wish there was, like, real sports fans or, like, fans of NHL teams in the States somewhere that we could, like, argue and banter with, because no one cares about the Colorado Avalanche. Everyone's just like, oh, they're great. Let's go. But there was no rhetoric. There was no pressure when they were terrible for 9 years. 9 years? Oh, they've been good for 3. Like, oh, what a great franchise this is. So you're telling me the Oilers win a cup and then it's just, it's just one of those things. It's just, I'm like, I hate it. I hate that we sit here and we're like, oh, McKinnon has been like a consummate professional his whole playing career. Has he?
Yeah. We've taken our fair share of jabs at McKinnon, but he is a little bit of a bitch. So, anyways, you're 100% right. This team, and like if we take away that one Stanley Cup run, they were something like 9 and or 6 and 12, something like that.
They won the President's Trophy, and they got swept by like a young Johnny Gaudreau and the Flames. I had to sit through that, guys. I had to sit through that playoff series, and people tell me the Flames were going to win the cup, and I'm like, no, I think Colorado just is shit. That's it. Like, listen, but they won the President's Trophy. Those are different things. They know how to win in the regular season. They have to learn how to win in the postseason. They have to have chance. So, like, being in the postseason every year and losing and, like, getting these lumps and learning these things about your team and, like, growing as a player, that's how you become a winner. So, if you're a Canadian team that's in the playoffs a bunch, even if you're losing, don't worry, it might come. Well, we can't talk about that. It's like, oh, you're terrible. We should trade Mitch Marner. Awesome. Cool. Great. Cool. 2 series. So we had, the Band-Aid Vancouver Canucks playing the little team that could in the Nashville Predators, took it to 6, and then just kind of fell apart, right? It was game 6. Was that the low-scoring, like, nothing game? Vancouver scored in the last couple minutes. I think I was watching that game, and I was like, this is clearly going to overtime. Stepped outside, have a smoke, came back, and it was over. And I was like, they scored in the last, 30 seconds. Cool, awesome, great, cool. So congratulations with your third-string goalie named Slavos.
Arturs Silvos?
Silvos?
Slippy, Slappy. I knew it started with an S, though.
Close, yeah. Oh, okay, hold on. I know we're talking about the Canucks, but no one cares. We have to talk about the Leafs. Man, I had a goalie named Samsonov for the last 2 years, and at no point did I make a Samsonite joke. What was that?
You know what? We should both commit at the end of this show to betting $100 on one team to win the Stanley Cup. And if they do, we will get Leafs Samsonite jerseys.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's fair.
I knew it started with an S.
Like,
all right.
Years. And he's probably gone now because he's terrible. But, for the last 2 years, I could have had Samsonite in my life. So, but Silvis or Slamsine, whatever your third-string goalie is, Vancouver, congratulations. He's out on the ice right now playing because Thatcher Demko is hurt. And if your stars are hurt in the postseason, you don't go very far. So, luckily, you got through the Nashville Predators. Anything nice to say about the Canucks?
Nothing nice, but I'm going to point to something, and it's this unsustainable way that Vancouver continues to win games. They get timely scoring late in games, which is great. They have erased deficits in 3 of their 7, 8 playoff games in the last 10 minutes or something stupid like that. They just keep making these like phenomenal comebacks, and they keep winning games on the strength of timely scoring and a third string goaltender. And if they continue to do this, kudos. I say it every year. A hot goaltender carries a team further than they deserve to go in the playoffs. I don't know if a third string Latvian netminder has a career 88% save percentage is going to be that guy. Mm-hmm. But if he does, fine. Maybe instead of getting a Samsonite jersey, I go and buy a sleeve-offs jersey. But it just seems like the Canucks are treading in this unsustainable water where, fine, if you're going to do this, go ahead. Be this unsustainable team and ride it as far as you can go, because it happens every year. Eventually, the bottom is going to fall out of these metrics, and you're going to be left with a team that doesn't get the good bounces, the timely scoring, the key saves.
Sure. Yeah. Enjoy it while you have it, because, I agree. It's probably some level of unsustainable hockey that you're playing at the moment, and it just, I don't know. It seems bad, and I want to make fun of them. I think it was that Nashville game 6. Dying minutes or something. There was like 3 minutes left, and Elias Lindholm slashed somebody in the face for no reason. And I was like, "What are you doing?" Gives Nashville a power play, they obviously kill it, and they come back and they score. But I'm like, man, that could have been like written very differently, right? Like that Elias Lindholm trade just like looks worse and worse and worse, and he's trying to lose you games that you accidentally win. Like, just not a good look. But
I'll show you for trying to trade me.
Yeah, I was like, I'll show you. This is it. The Edmonton Kings. Actually, I had a Canucks friend after I think it was that last series. He's like, Elias Pettersson for Mitch Marner. Who says no? And I was like, I mean, if that trade's on the table, I'll take it. William needs a friend, and I think that's the key to unlocking William Nylander is getting another big, tall, handsome-looking Swedish person to come play with him. So,
because you're my best friend.
Woo! Edmonton Oilers, LA Knights. That's a wrestler. Okay, cool. LA Kings, as it were. 5-1. I think they only won, game 2? Overtime. Other than that, the Edmonton Oilers won 7-4, 6-1, 1-0. Oh, they played some defense. And 4-3.
It was a series that Edmonton hung on to, but it could have gone very differently. Stuart Skinner, I think we talked a little bit about this last time we recorded. Stuart Skinner has had a renaissance this postseason, and he's being what everybody expected him to be, and that's a slightly above average goaltender. He's making saves. He hasn't looked phenomenal, but he also hasn't cost them games, which is what he did last year. In last year's postseason, He eventually got yanked. Soup came in. The Oilers made it to the second round. He's been playing, he's maintained his standard, and that's allowed the Oilers to play a little bit more freely in front of him. They still depend so heavily on special team scoring, and when special team scoring dries up, typically losses follow. Sure. But in this case, Stuart Skinner has delivered a few, we'll call them game-saving performances, just with solid efforts. He got that shutout in Game 4 against the Kings. So cumulatively, this team looks like they're in a good spot, but they also are not playing to the level that I would typically expect them to. And specifically, their expected goals for rating, which is just a combination of Corsi, shots for, chances, all these other goofy shit. It's basically, I don't want to say it's plummeting, but they're getting outplayed more regularly. A part of that is that they are playing with the lead, and when you do that, you're just generating less chances, just kind of a natural consequence of the game. So playing with the lead is impacting that a little bit, but they're still not generating as much offense as we typically do. And as we saw in Game 1 of the second round series, it could come back to haunt them. So we'll see how the rest of it goes, but they just outplayed the Kings. They finally have the antidote for the Kings' poison, and it was not this extended series that it has been in years past.
Sure. Awesome. Yeah, they kind of rolled through that. And actually, that goes perfectly into our next round, and we'll work our way back kind of around the bracket. I know, Grant, you can't see this, but I have, the NHL playoff page that I can click on and shows all the games, and I, work this way around, and we're going to go back this way around, so...
That's A+ balance. I like it.
Oh, boy. All right, so we'll start with... Oh, wait, do you want to start or end with... I think it's just we're talking... Edmonton, Vegas, or Edmonton, Vancouver. Oh my gosh, I haven't talked for a while, obviously. So good times, me. Edmonton, Vancouver. This is a pretty good little series here. We've got Edmonton losing after being up, giving up the lead to Vancouver in Game 1 back from this Wednesday, and then last night, overtime thriller, and they finally beat that dragon known as Silvis.
This is curious, and maybe this is, again, this might be unfounded. And actually, let me preface this. Up until 2 days ago, you could watch every playoff game on CBC Gem.
Yep.
You cannot do that anymore. You cannot stream NHL Stanley Cup playoff games on CBC Gem, which fucking just... I was tilted. When I found this out on Game 1, because we were out for wings on Wednesday, came back to watch the third at home, and I was like, what the fuck? Why can't I watch this? By the time I got to my end of my sleuthing, the lead was gone, the Oilers had lost, and I was like, apparently Rogers has just decided you can't stream on CBC. You can watch it on CBC TV, but you can't watch it via a streaming platform anymore. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I have no intention of supporting Rogers or Sportsnet or the NHL, and I will be streaming illegally, and I want to say that out loud so that whoever's listening knows that fuck you and fuck you, Gary Bettman. However, last night...
I'm not gonna verbally agree with you, but I did have a hand up in solidarity, so...
I saw that.
But I may not have... I may not have agreed or disagreed with that statement. Wink.
I'll catch that. Anyways, I was talking about the Canucks making these crazy comeback, and I don't know if this was fully intentional, but the Oilers definitely reserved their best effort for the third period. Now, like I said, they were down 3-2 going into the third. Kind of makes sense. You're going to come out flying. But part of me felt like they were kind of sandbagging through the first two periods to save whatever energy reserves you have for the final stanza and just be like, you know what? We are not going to let Vancouver do what they've done to Nashville and us in Game 1. We are actually going to save all of our energy and effort for period 3. We're going to put 16 shots on net. We're going to score. We're going to force overtime, and then we're going to eventually win it in overtime. I don't know if it was a conscious coaching decision, but it feels like it was an intended effect of being like, don't let Vancouver get momentum in the third.
And I wonder how much of I didn't watch every Edmonton Oilers game this year. I didn't watch a Canucks. Well, no, that's a lie. I think they played the Leafs twice. So I probably saw like 2 Canucks games. Is it typical of these teams to, like the Oilers, score early, try and defend a lead? If they're going to lose, they usually blow it late. Like, is that just kind of in their DNA? Same with Vancouver. Is their game... keep it close, and then you have those moments where the scrubs of the world, the Ilya Mikyevs or something like that's making a play and all of a sudden scoring a goal. And is that just in their DNA? So one of the things with the Leafs all year, almost every other game, they would get puck possession late in a period and draw a penalty. Almost without fail, going into the second period, going into the third, they have like 50 seconds of a power play. And it was fucking awful. And it actually broke their power play, right? Because these teams essentially, we have to defend for 50 seconds. We can blow that up. They don't get the full 2 minutes. And it was almost like it was a strategy or something that was implemented. There was 3 games that this happened against the same. It was the same thing. The Bruins almost knew that, for example, look, the Leafs are going to get the puck. They're going to try. We'll just penalize them. They can't do anything. Their power play is fucking terrible. And it just was that kind of that reoccurring theme throughout the playoffs. So is that similar to what we were seeing with these teams where we're just going to have that kind of give and take where the Oilers are going to go early and the Canucks are going to come back late, and it's just going to be that give and take all series? And I wonder if that's just a nature of how these teams kind of grow. And it's one of those things, it's the perk of watching a game, right? So if you would have taken the diehard Oilers fan, the diehard Canucks fan, they could kind of help point those out and be like, oh, that is how they play, and that is how kind of their DNA of these teams and the way they coach and the way the players play. Is that kind of what we're seeing now unfold in the next 5 games?
I think one thing that the Oilers have changed.
I guess as a fan, do you have is there that annoying thing that the Oilers do again and again and again, and you're seeing that now, and you're like, oh god, I hate it.
So with the Oilers in particular, what they've done a lot differently with this new head coach. So previously, what they would do is they had 2 schemes on the power play. They would just use 2 schemes and they would score. Now they have just not necessarily schemes, but philosophies, strategies, where it's like, let's move, let's change things, let's go to different players, rather than just getting Draisaitl the puck at the bottom of the circle, like, or letting McDavid work his magic. Like, there's more passes, there's more involvement, and this ties into your piece on Sheldon Keefe in the Toronto series in their elimination, where he was outcoached. Mm-hmm. The Oilers have never been a team, at least up until this season, they had never been a team to outcoach somebody else and make adjustments on the fly and do things differently. But that has been their advantage this postseason, is that they are not falling into those like always or safe traps, always do or safe traps where their teams can expect this and they learn how to defend against it. They are doing things differently. And I think game 2 is a classic, or like a great example of that, to say we are not like, they just would not let Vancouver gain possession in the third. It was like this fully intended effort of being like, Vancouver does this time and time again. We're just not going to let them do it, and we're going to do that by, playing more defensively for periods 1 and 2, and then we're going to turn it on so that Vancouver's chasing, so that we're drawing penalties against them. And I think that's the difference for the Oilers, is that they have a coach who can make these adjustments on the fly, and we're seeing the Oilers benefit from it.
Cool. Awesome. Picks for this series, if you were to make a pick?
So before the series started, the Oilers were, I think, minus 200 on the series line. I don't want to get my hopes up. I really don't. Because every year it gets fucking torn out. And it would hurt so much more if it was the Vancouver Canucks who knocked us out of the postseason. But I do like the way the Oilers are playing. I do like this effort. I do like this. Like, the bottom 6 with Corey Perry is just unreal. Like, when you have this jackass who just constantly stirring the pot, you're like, you know what? This is what that feels like. Suck it, Vancouver. Mm-hmm. It kind of feels good. Like a guy who's willing to, like, charge a goalie in a crease and then take his beating because he knows that that's what's coming to him. Like, we have never had that. And it's nice to have that kind of stabilize the bottom 6, because then it allows guys like Dylan Holloway, he hasn't been a shining star, but he's been effective in the postseason. It's been great to see. So, altogether, I like the Oilers' effort. I like what they're doing. I hope, my sincerest hope is that they advance to the next round, and I think that they have the advantage over the Canucks.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, myself, I'm also going to, I would think, like, if you can't beat Silva's guys, it's just one of those things, the nature of the game. If you're hurt, your stars aren't clicking right, like you're struggling with the Petterssons, Demko's hurt, those are your 2 best players. 99 times out of 100, you're probably losing, right? So I'm going to favor, I think Edmonton kind of rolls this. Vancouver probably gets another win here, right? Just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. So Edmonton in 6.
I have to get one more thing off my chest before we move on.
Yep.
I like that call. How bad did the NHL fuck up this scheduling? Like, when you had the Oilers and Canucks, who had both been on extended breaks, mm-hmm. and you had this opportunity to be like, here, we have all this time to plan. We're going to plan to have a Canadian team on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday night. Instead, they forced Boston into a series 2 days after they eliminate the Leafs. They're like, fuck you, mm-hmm. go to Florida. And it just feels like it was a conscious effort to screw Canadian hockey fans.
I wonder if Boston is on Toronto's schedule now. Like, if they were just like, hold on, if Toronto makes it, we have to make sure that the Leafs get fucked over, because we love fucking... Because that's part of the reason I think Florida won last year, was just the scheduling was literally against the Leafs. Just whatever the metrics were, let's make it the worst ever. I kind of feel like Boston's now on that course. So, see? It sucks. It sucks when you're not favorited by the league. Terrible. Dallas, Colorado. What a piece. What do we think's going to happen in Dallas and Colorado?
I'm trying not to let my emotions get involved in this, because as we mentioned earlier, we are kind of both actively cheering against the Avalanche. Mm-hmm. But when I look at the metrics and I see what the first 2 games of the series have looked like, I just can't help but think that Colorado has the advantage, or at least Colorado should have the advantage. They've outplayed the Stars. Granted, Dallas put themselves out to a 4-0 lead. Mm-hmm. Was it 4-0 in game 2? They almost blew it. They held on by the skin of their teeth, 5-3 on the strength of an empty netter. But throughout that game, like the game before in game 1, they had been outplayed. Colorado was really dictating pace. Dallas's offense, I don't know where it's coming from because it just feels like they're constantly chasing the puck, and for some reason they're still getting a lot of love in the betting market. And to me, just like it's tough to reconcile those things when they're not passing the eye test. The analytics kind of support that this team is getting outplayed, and then the betting market has basically this as a pick 'em. Like Colorado being minus 130 at home tonight just makes no sense to me. When they've been this dominant on the road, and now you get to go home in front of your pathetic group of unapologetic Avs fans who actually don't care about hockey. I don't see why they're not like minus 170. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Do you think Colorado in 6, 7?
I hope this game goes 7, or sorry, this series goes 7, because there's something to be said about like solid, just structured hockey, and both of these teams play that brand. So it has been kind of a chess match, kind of fun to watch, the battles, teams taking whatever advantages they can get. I hope it goes 7. But I do expect the Avalanche to prevail.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to take Dallas in 7. I think we're going to see Dallas, a perennial. Did they win the President's Trophy? No. Who won the President's Trophy?
Did they come up short? Was it Rangers? Rangers won the President's Trophy?
Wait, you can't win the President's Trophy and win the first round of the playoffs and get a sweep? That doesn't make sense. But with that being said, again, one of the best teams. I was going to pull up the standings here as we were kind of talking, maybe on my phone. But we're looking at what should be a blockbuster Dallas, Vegas, Game 7, Dallas, Colorado, also a blockbuster, Dallas, Edmonton, and then like a Dallas, New York Rangers. Man, that is like the most star-studded. You have to play, 4 top 6 teams to win the Stanley Cup if you're the Dallas Stars? We maybe really got to rethink this whole playoff format. I don't think it's working. I don't think it's ever worked. I don't think anyone's like, this is a good idea. Who said that? Outside of maybe these divisional matchups, I love me some Edmonton, Vancouver. I love me some Edmonton, Calgary. And the fact that we can get that cool, awesome, great. But everything else about this is the worst.
Literally, it's fucking pathetic.
Who's out there liking it? No one. Outside of I just don't understand. Now, the best part about that is the criticisms. If you would have just flipped it 1-8, it changed one first round matchup this year. So it was kind of one of those things this year. I'm like, well, this year is a bad example, but yeah, okay.
This is Gary Bettman trying to fucking outcommission the rest of the professional sports world and be like, I'm going to do something differently, and then it makes it the worst for everybody.
Okay, I guess Vegas was lower, so Vegas was 14th. But they're pretty good, right? They got Thomas Hertl randomly extra on their lineup, so they're a 14th team with a Thomas Hertl playing third line center for them. Cool, awesome. They're now playing the top 8th team. Then they get the Oilers at 9, and then they get the number 1 team. Okay, never mind. It's not as again. If you look at the numbers, it doesn't ever look that bad. Florida, Boston. But other than that one game hiccup from Boston kind of dominating Florida in game 1, are we thinking this is like a 5-game series? Florida's just rolling over the pathetic Bruins. The baby Bruins. The diving Bruins. The guys that cried. Remember when Brad Marchand was touched by the ref and he fell down like he was shot? Did you see that? Did you see that play? I love it. That was my favorite part. Anyone that has a Brad Marchand jersey on and he's like, oh, this guy's tough. I'm like, no, he's a fucking loser. And he's showing it with his age right now. And if he doesn't have Chara defending him, guess what? He's a fucking piece of shit. So yeah, that's a cool jersey you got on there, bitch.
Got some poop stains on it. Anyways, I haven't seen all of this series. I've seen a little bit of it. My favorite part of the parts that I have seen, the third period in game 2, when Boston was just like, you know what, fuck this. And they lit it all on fire. At the end of the game, I don't know if you watch this game, Nick. At the end of the game, there's, players skating up and down the ice. As the camera pans past the Bruins bench, there's 4 guys sitting on the bench because everybody had got kicked out. And God bless David Pasternak's, Czech. I think he's Czech. Mm-hmm. Czechia heart. He should not be fighting. And he should not be fighting Matthew Tkachuk. My God, when I saw this happening, I saw it before the broadcast pointed it out. I saw it happening. Mm-hmm. I was like, when they were standing by the penalty box, I was like, those are guys talking like they're going to talk about fighting. I've seen this happen, and it definitely was I don't want to call it a stage fight, but it was a planned fight. They had made this decision earlier in the evening where it's like, at one point we're going to fight, and they did. And Pasta, fuck him. He was just like so out of his element. He tried his damnedest, but man, Pasta, stick to scoring goals. For the love of God, please just score goals. You don't need to be fighting. Worst case scenario, he gets concussed, he breaks a hand, and then he's done anyways, and the Bruins are fucking toast. So.
100%. Like, I saw him got rocked by one of Kachuk's hits, and I was like, you're not defending yourself. You don't know what you're doing. Why are you doing this? And I'm seeing this, like, oh, do you think Matthews would ever do this? And I was like, no, Matthews would look at Kachuk, and he'd be like, no, I'm not fighting you. I don't care. I don't care. If this is the deciding factor of the series, my well-being as a person is more greater than getting into the scrap with this fucking little shit scum guy in the corner. What were you doing? But yeah, cool, great, awesome. Let's send our best players out and do this. Da-da-da.
Yeah. So my radars or feelers are completely off in this series.
Okay.
I thought Boston was going to win the last two. At least I thought it was going to go to overtime in game 2. I was like, they've got some fight in them. Obviously, that hasn't even been close. The magic that Swayman had in knocking off the Leafs has completely run out. The advantage the Bruins do have, though, is they have a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender on the bench. And I would be shocked if Jim Montgomery does not switch netminders ahead of game 4.
Oh, sure. Yeah, cool. I could see that. Yeah, I'm going to say Florida, and just because Boston already has won 6, they could probably win another one. But more than likely, it's Florida's kind of series to lose. And what a weird asset. What a weird, to have two kind of top goalies as a tandem, right? What a weird thing. That's just, I don't know. Seems like a weird thing in, Dynasty or, fantasy football where a guy just has, 3 sweet quarterbacks. And you're like, you have Mahomes, Hurts, and Joe Burrow? Yep. And I'm like, you don't want to trade any of them. They're like, nope. I'm like, but how does this make your team better? But it makes your team worse. And I'm like, but they sit on your bench. Yeah, but if Mahomes gets hurt, Joe Burrow comes in. Yeah, I guess. But if Mahomes gets hurt, isn't your season just done? Why don't you play? No. Okay, all right, cool.
That's a great analogy. I do think Allmark steals the show in game 4. Let's call it a 2-1 overtime Bruins win.
Okay.
But I can't help but think that Florida is just going to their second straight Eastern Conference final, and that chaps my ass the exact wrong way. I'm going to say Florida in 6.
Until Sam Reinhart signs for $12 million this offseason or something, and then all of a sudden he kind of sucks next year, and I was like, oh, what a waste of money. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe these contracts are just, they should be performance-based if that's what we want. I don't know. Instead of just criticizing these guys making money and not doing anything. And then
53 goals the rest of his career.
Yeah.
That's it. He's going to get paid $36 million a year. Anyways. Sorry.
Then finally we have Carolina, who's on the brink. So we got to it, guys. We got to the series. Rangers, your guys are flying. 3 overtime. It was 3 overtime games, right?
No, I think only one went to overtime. There was a double overtime. Oh, no, 2 overtimes. It was double overtime. Okay. And then it was an overtime game last time.
So 3 overtimes, but only 2 games with overtimes. Rod
Brindamore is just fucking out of his element right now. It looks like he's getting outcoached he just doesn't have an answer, which is unusual because Rod Brindamore always has this team ready to play. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the Rangers, I don't know how to beat these guys in the postseason.
Well, clearly he's just trying to get his next gig. He's like, look, Toronto, they don't have a coach right now. You know what they like? Coaches that can't make in-game decisions. Power plays that go dry. Oh, so dry. You're like, there's not an ounce of moisture anywhere in this power play. And then just having terrible sound clips after the game. You're like, oh, the guys tried really hard. I don't think it's the core's fault. It's just in-game adjustments. We beat ourselves. So really, he's just trying out to be the next Maple Leafs head coach. This is perfect. This is great.
Oh, man.
That's all I've heard. Rod Brindamore. And as they're losing, they're like, oh, the power play's dried up. He's not making in-game adjustments. And I was like, no.
Well, the shoe kind of fits, so that's got to at least feel a little homey for you.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we could do a cool thing after games. We storm the boards or something. There we go. That'll do it. Just getting outworked. Do I think that the Carolina Hurricanes are just going to roll over and play dead? I don't. I really don't. But it's probably going to come down to can you beat Igor Shesterkin once or 4 times in a row? Probably not. So more than likely, Hurricanes, you've dug yourself a hole. You're not getting out of. Rangers probably winning this one. But I don't know. Maybe Rangers in 6.
tonight's going to be. I don't want to say it's like Custard's last stand or anything, but I'm having a hard time believing in the Canes because I've believed in them all season. But Shesterkin, I think, is just the hot goalie.
Yeah.
Every year I try to predict it. I'm like, who's going to be the hot goalie this year? And the more and more I think of it, the more I'm just like, it's clearly Igor Shesterkin. He's going to carry the Rangers to the Stanley Cup final. I don't see how they don't make it. I would kind of be shocked if Carolina won Game 4. This desperation ploy when you're on the ropes and changing goaltenders rarely works. And that's why I think Boston needs to do it now to give themselves the best chance.
Sure.
And I just, like, you're basically hanging out a goalie who hasn't played in, like, a month and saying, come stop the hottest scoring team in the NHL because they've scored 4 goals in all but 2 of their 7 playoff games. Nobody's had an answer for them on the power play. Mm-hmm. Not that they're scoring at will at 5-on-5, but they're still scoring at 5-on-5. There's just no stopping this offense. And putting in a goalie who doesn't have in-game experience just feels like it's going to be, it's just not going to work. I think Rangers in 4.
Oh, yeah, double sweep. Ooh, oh, baby. Oh, baby. All right. Rangers in 6. Sweet. So that kind of wraps up our predictions for the second round, which are mostly over, and probably if we talk next week, more than likely definitely over. So we'll probably definitely have a conclusion, at least in this Rangers series. We'll have a better idea what's going on in Florida, and then our sample size in the West here will probably be greater as well. So I think with that wraps up all that there is. Draft lottery. Sharks won. Do anything for you?
So I said that I'm just excited to see what Mike Greer trades us for, and I promise you it will not be a good return. This guy just constantly gets waxed in trades, and I don't think it's going to go well again. They're either going to draft somebody who doesn't develop because they don't have the the system or the coaching staff or the programs to develop talent, or they're going to trade it away thinking, I'm going to get a king's ransom and then get 2 second-round draft picks, and Mike Greer's going to be laughing all the way to the bank, being like, ha, look at this. It's not even a particularly deep draft class on top of all.
That's the thing. Like, if you don't have the Bedard, the impact player up top, right, that people are kind of talking about, it is hard to you're like, this is going to be one of those, like, Nico Hischier, what's his face? Something, who's that loser that Philadelphia got that is, like, out of the league now?
Nolan Patrick,
that year. We're like, yeah! Who's the best player from that draft? I have no idea. It was a guy who's taken like 7th. So at least with that, though, every team kind of at least has some reason, right? So the Montreal's at 5, the Ottawa at 7, the Calgary's at 9. You might get an okay player, right? As long as you're not reaching and trying to get the Iginla kid at like 9 because you're cute, Calgary. I don't know if he's like a top 10 talent, but like, again, be really cute if he was on your team, just like Daddy. Oh boy.
This is kind of so. You have now just wandered into NBA territory because we can't talk about this without talking about Bronny James. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy was a bench player on a fucking terrible USC team, and now they're talking about him being a lottery pick. How does this happen? He averaged 4 points a game in college. Like, how are you somebody team? How is a team in the top 10 going to step out and pick up Bronny James? It makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, we just saw that in football with Marvin Harrison Jr. Good, okay. I heard he was not as good as like Malik Neighbors, the second wide receiver taken off the board, but because of Daddy was there. Now, weirdly enough, Jerry Rice's son was also in the draft and was taken in the 7th round. So sometimes nepotism in sports doesn't make sense. Sometimes you're like, I understand why that's there. So,
okay, so I will say this because this is kind of my wheelhouse. Marvin Harrison Jr. actually was that good. He is just going to be a lights out receiver. But next year, we'll talk about nepotism. Shedeur Sanders, who is Barry Sanders' kid. Yeah. He's coached at Colorado. He's a quarterback. He plays quarter/cornerback, so he does it all. And everybody's talking about him being a top 3 pick, and that could very well be the case, with the asterisks of it being this is fucking his Sanders last name is carrying him all the way to the top of the board.
Sure. Okay. Cool. Draft lottery. That was it. Do you have any picks for tonight's?
I got 3 picks. Do you got any action?
I'm gonna do a 2-team parlay. I've got a parlay for us, but I have to make it. Yeah, so I have one. So why don't you lead off?
Tell you what, I'm going to do something crazy then. If you're doing a parlay, I'm just going to parlay these 3 picks to keep it nice and clean.
Okay.
Let me go here. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through my phone. I got 3 picks. So the first of which, as mentioned, I wholeheartedly endorse this pick. Florida, Boston is going to overtime tomorrow. I don't think Boston's as bad as we've seen. Mm-hmm. I think a goaltending change is on the horizon. And the betting price kind of reflects this, so I'm guessing that I'm just going to follow this, Steve, as far as I can. Bruins, Florida, overtime, plus 330. I also, as mentioned, am kind of full send on the Colorado Avalanche tonight. I think that they have outplayed the Stars. They've looked good doing it, and now they have the advantage of last change and home ice, whatever that's worth. Minus 134 does not do this team justice. And lastly, the New York Rangers. The Hurricanes just haven't had an answer, and I don't expect it to come when they need it most, especially not at this current betting price. So I'm parlaying all 3 of those together. I'm betting my full $100 on it. $100 to win $1,681.30.
638. I'm sorry. I heard Boston overtime. What were the other 2 picks? New York Rangers and
Colorado Avalanche.
Colorado. Cool.
And I lied. It's 1730.
1730. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to take just a simpler one. I'm going to go the opposite side of the Rangers. I think it's just hard to kill a good squad like the Hurricanes, right? The Hurricanes have been top 5 team almost all year. All when we're watching them, they never really dipped that well. Yeah, they're having a little bit dip on the season, and I think they're going to be kind of harder to kill than Grant's giving them credit for. So I'm going to take the Hurricanes. I'm going to parlay them with the team you see behind Grant there, with the Edmonton Oilers winning tomorrow, plus 152 for those 2. All $100 on that to win 252.
All right. I hope you're right. At least I hope you're right about the Oilers.
Okay, yeah.
I wouldn't hate it if we saw a game 5 between the Canes and Rangers, but it feels like we're just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah. All right, and I mean at this point they're dead in the water. It's just one of those things. I think we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Any other puck talk?
I think that's it. I think that kind of wraps up everything. We're good to go till next week. Yeah. I know the names for the Utah teams were released, so Utah Ice made it. So I was like, hey, all right, we're still in it. Let's go.
I did not see this. What are the other team names?
There's like 20 of them, so.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to look into it. Utah Ice. Did Soakers make it? The Utah Soakers?
No, it's like Yetis and some other stuff. And I'm like, Yetis? That seems so silly. Like, really have to do Yetis?
And like, you can't think of Yetis without thinking of Pixar Monsters Inc., where the Yeti eating pea snow cones, like, that's not an imposing force.
That's the thing. I'm like, Grizzlies, I don't know, something. So, but Utah Ice, I was like, ooh, okay, all right. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, ice. Could be like diamonds, too. Oh, look at that. You could do like a cool diamond thing. Diamonds on the jerseys? Make the jerseys really expensive?
Oh, man.
So, like, when players get upset and they're, like, throwing their jerseys on the ice, you're like, holy fuck, that guy just threw, like, $20,000 on the ice. That's a statement right there.
That is a statement. Guess what? How much do you love your team? I'm giving up my $20,000 jersey is how much I hate
Oh,
this
you
team.
only have the 4-carat jerseys? Yeah, this is, like, 6 carats. I'm not even sending my kids to college anymore, so hopefully they like Walmart.
Just see a jersey fly onto the ice and take off a guy's head. Oh, God!
Players are out there scrambling for the extra jerseys. Oh, my jersey ripped. Can I get another one, coach?
Just a bunch of fourth-line scrubs beating each other up for the jersey on the ice. Well, Utah, what have you turned the NHL into? The laughingstock it never was.
Damn you! Why did we listen to that guy on Twitter? a lot of franchises have ended that way, so it's not the first.
Actually, fun fact, that's what soaked the entire WHA.
Yeah, there you go.
Just too many dead fans.
Too many dead fans. All right. So with that, though, I think that wraps up. So we're done this week till next week.
Till next week.
Whoa,
the Canada
whoa.
Puck
Yeah.
Podcast would not be the Canada Puck Podcast without our babe of the week. I can't remember if I went to this well before, but after seeing it, I was like, 100% we are dipping our toes back in these waters if that is the case. So if you've already seen this lady, I apologize, but it's definitely worth rehashing. Olivia Knowles on PWHL Toronto, number 7. You can find her on Instagram at Olivia, Olivia, Knowles, like Beyonce, KNOWLES 99. I've used a lot of foolish hockey puns over the years trying to describe how these women make me feel. But Mick, there's no words to describe the heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching feeling I get when I look at this absolute babe. Olivia Knowles, you are our babe of the week. Schwing.
Schwing. I like the picture. Show off your big dumper. That's my favorite. So back that up into me any day. But with that ends the podcast. I think we'll be back once or twice. We still have a Canadian team going. And we'll have a Canadian team in the West Finals. So we could keep talking for weeks. Oh, baby. But I think we have to say party on, Grant.
Party on, Mick. We'll see everybody next week.